So in this Nearpod, we're going to be talking a little bit about geography, obviously, and language. The focus is really language here. You can feel to just hear this out, kind of like a podcasty way until you get to the video. This first part is going to be introducing the video and why I chose it. And then the rest of the Nearpod slides are related to questions and stuff like that. Okay. And so beginning this, one of the things that we learned about geography from the previous slides that you saw on the PowerPoint is that geography is not just about the physical composition of our world, but it's also made up of the different human geography, right? What people bring into a certain country, a certain place, and when they move, etc., or when they're there in that place. And so we know that in the United States, we have a lot of regions, small regions, but the four major regions we have are the West, South, Midwest, and the Southeast regions. And from there, you can break it up a little bit more in itself. And we know that we learned from previously that regions, it's not just like, oh, well, all the people in the West are the same kind of people, right? Every region has its own cultural differences, their own religion differences, cuisine, and languages. And then even without that way, if you break it down even smaller, even just the West Coast, how different it can be from the East Coast. And so knowing that and keeping in mind is that every region in itself, and even in our own communities, every little pocket is so different from each other. There's not just something you say like, oh, we're all homogeneous, we're all the same. We also have political regions like the 2020 Biden election. We can see how our country is divided into those political regions by just the colors of it. One of the things we know, though, is that immigration is a big thing here in the United States, right? Because we are in this kind of like pedestal of being this country of opportunity and dreams coming true. And so we have a lot of people from around the world that want to come to our country. Here we can see the diversity in each region by race, right? And so it's mostly focused here on the Asian community, Hispanic, Black, and white only, which in itself composes a lot of people. But we know that the white is still the dominant culture in race in our country. But as time grows, and we all know this already, minorities are increasing while the white race is decreasing due to birth rates, right? And so we are becoming that dominant culture, that dominant group in this country. And so the question here is now, how do we go from being, knowing how it feels when we are rejected, when our language is oppressed? So how do we go on from knowing that we're going to be going into this dominant place of power, of position of power, and making a change there? And I think that's what my goal is today of like, what could you be doing to just starting that change and breaking that cycle of oppressing people, not only because of their color of the skin, but also because of the language they speak. As Spanish speakers, we are able to see just how much the Spanish language is oppressed and not considered equal. But at the same time, it is on a higher pedestal, or not higher, but is higher in equality than, let's say, other languages like Tlaloc or Korean or Chinese in this country, right? We have that representation of Spanish a bit more when it comes to those things. Or Arabic, let's say that, especially Arabic, considering with our culture stuff. And so what I want us to do is just think about those things, and I provided a few questions for you to answer, and then a video connecting those. And so the first question that you'll get answered or asked in the next slide once this video is over is, draw how it made you feel when your native language was rejected as a way to communicate. Like, what was that emotion? Like when you realized that your native language was just not good enough. Like for me, knowing that Spanish was just not good enough to deal in the academic world, right? The Spanish was only in my home, and that's basically where I needed it. How did that make you feel? How did it make you feel about your language? In that. So you'll draw there. And then the next one will be, The next one will be, how do you feel when your native language is recognized and accepted as a form of communication? So I don't want it just to stick in the negative one, but think about that positive. Like when a program finally said like, hey, if Spanish is your stronger suit, go with Spanish. If English is your stronger suit, go with English. Or even when you like see signs that are bilingual, or your language is represented in a place where you thought, oh, I wouldn't think my language would be here. How does that make you feel? And then there's a little poll here. Just, have you ever tried to greet or thank someone from an oppressed group in their own language? Again, getting ourselves out of our own group. I think it's a lot hard, especially when we just teach Spanish kiddos and we surround ourselves by Spanish people, to just focus in that area. But how again, breaking of that cycle is, how have we done it? What have we done to break that cycle and create that equity for other languages that are as important? And we do not want to have the results of what Native Americans go through of losing their own language, right? And so have you ever tried to greet or thank someone when you interact with them, right? I think a lot of my exchanges have either been at restaurants or have been at supermarkets, where I go, to an Asian supermarket, or I go to a Korean place, or an Indian place to have some curry. Like, have you ever tried to like, oh, how do you say thank you, or say hi, or say goodbye to your waitress or waiter in their language, or in that group's language, as a way to communicate with them or connect with them? And after that, there's going to be a video here about Dr. Jessica B. Harris. Dr. Jessica B. Harris wrote a book called High on the Hog, which is a video that I showed as my extensions earlier. And it's on Netflix, but she wrote a book first, and then the Netflix is the adaptation of it. And so basically what you'll see is that you'll watch the video, and then there's 3 questions that I've paused at each part for you to answer regards to that video. In case you don't know, High on the Hog is a Netflix series that follows and teaches you about the African American cuisine and the history of it. It's a very good. And like you say, it's in my scholarly extension. I highly recommend it. It is eye-opening, and it's just educational in itself. And it's just a very powerful series about how the enslaved people, how they were taken away from their homes. But again, even when they were taken away, kidnapped and forced to come to the United States, that they brought with them that culture, that they brought with them that food, and they brought with them that language. And so she's been around the world, like obviously talking about her book, and she has a little interaction where she's in China, and she talks about that and just about languages and the connection. And I just kind of wanted to put out there her video, and if you want to continue watching it, it's going to be on the references. I've trimmed this down to just 7 minutes, but it's an hour-long conversation. So that's going to be your next activity. And after that, it's just going to be a last question here about asking about the video and how you can create equity to other languages that are not our own, that's not English or Spanish. What can we do to bring that equity to other languages, even if it is just saying, okay, well, I'm going to just learn how to be respectful and say hi or goodbye or thank you in their language, right? All right, that's it. This is a Nearpod lesson. All right, thanks, you guys. Bye. Enjoy.